Identity on-chain is great. Blockchains allow us to register our identities, let's say with an ENS domain or a lens handle, and turn it into our self-sovereign online identity. Identity on-chain is also complex. We can create as many as we want, and that allows for Sybil attacks to the protocols we want to use. If we use anti-Sybil attack measures and we create an identity that protocols want to interact with, we more often than not end up putting a lot of information under that identity. We've got POAPs that draw a trail all through the events that we have been. We've got all our DAO tokens and memberships and all other ENS domains that we bought with related addresses. And that is terrible for privacy. You are communicating a lot more than necessary and you expose yourself to attacks, or simply you don't want people to know certain things about you. Hadrien, today's guest, is the founder of Sismo, and in this episode we'll see how zero-knowledge badges can keep our different identities separate, without having to create multiple addresses and fund them in a hopefully private way, as they can be controlled with a self-sovereign vault, your identity control center. We are going into the use cases, but also into the architecture of a privacy-preserving identity system, from ZK-proof generation in browser to the role testers play and how you can create your own. Before we begin, it's a great time to subscribe or follow this channel because there's a lot of zero knowledge. Our badge master today, Hadrien from Sismo.
Tell us a little bit more about Sismo.
So actually, Sismo is about an attestation protocol, but it's currently mainly about ZK badges. And you'll see that badges are some sort of tokenized attestations. Just a quick thing about Sismo, why we started it. We think that we need to add privacy and decentralization to our identity systems. This is what will protect human sovereignty from centralized players. I think that all of us are okay with this mission to try to build new primitives to really empower self-sovereign identities. So I think that today I'll talk about badges, and then I'll show you effectively how you can create badges and how they are useful. Badges, they help you to use your sovereign data. As I said before, it's a non-transferable token, and it's an attestation. So when you have a badge, it means something about your identity, your data. So for instance, it allows you, let's say that you have an account that has some data, a wallet, self-sovereign account. You will be able, with ZK badges, to import some of your data, some of your reputation. Let's say that you have an NFT, you will be able to send to another account, let's say you own an account, a proof of NFT ownership. So it allows you to import reputation between accounts in a privacy-preserving way. It also allows you to granularly reveal data. That is one of the most important things about ZK badges, that if you have an account that has a lot of great data, but you just want to reveal your NFT ownership, you can do that with badges. And the other big thing about badges, it allows you to, from multiple accounts, to aggregate data. This is not something that we can do today with Sismo, but it's being worked on. But the big vision of Sismo is really this. So again, if we have another view on this, with 0x1, let's say it's an Ethereum account, it's a self-sovereign account. It's an account that is ruled by the private key. So what's great with that is that, of course, I can access decentralized applications. Chance to trade on Uniswap, I can buy the ENS name, I can buy an NFT, I can transact on Lens and do some social actions. And by doing so, I've turned my self-sovereign account into an identity. And this identity is sovereign. I can do whatever I want. Nobody can remove it from me. Nobody can control it. It's controlled by a private key. This is the important part. But since it's imported by a private key, what's even greater is that you can connect to signing with Ethereum apps with this. If you think about it, snapshots, gm.xyz or OpenSea, the profile that you have on OpenSea, you have to sign a message. It's not a transaction, but you connect to this website, you sign a message, and they take a look at your data. Effectively, when you do so, you bring your sovereign data to them. When you're a snapshot, what you do is that you sign a message, you prove that you are the eligibility, and they take a look at your data that you brought from your identity, and they say, oh, you have some Uniswap tokens, you are able to vote in the Uniswap governance. If you think about it, whenever you connect to an app like that, you bring all your data. You don't have the ability to just bring some of your data. Maybe if you wanted to vote on Uniswap on Snapshot, you didn't want to reveal also that you're Hadrien.eth. Maybe you just wanted to use as a Uniswap contributor. So that's where we will use ZK badges, ZK proofs. So zero knowledge proofs, it allows you to prove something without revealing it. So in this case, what you will be able to prove is that you do have some Uniswap tokens and are able to vote on the snapshot without revealing that they do not ETH. So that's the whole concept behind badges. So again, they are tokenized attestations. They are non-transferable tokens as ERC 1155, and they are minted by a ZK attester. This is a smart contract that has one role is to verify users' ZK proof, and if the ZK proof is valid, so the ZK proof of the attestation, like let's say that I'm a human, if the proof is valid, they mean the badge. So I don't want to go that much in details actually. I'd better maybe show you the product, or are you interested by the technicalities, the ZK technicalities of it, or are you more interested in can be used and things like that?
I think both, but don't be afraid to get into the nitty-gritty, the technicalities. We are mainly a technical public, which will be able to follow you, and if they don't follow, they will ask follow-up questions. So don't worry about it.
So very cool. So I'll explain then the protocol actually. So the badges ERC 1155 in this contract we have collection of until infinity 2 to the power 256, and so all badges live in the same contract. And you have again the attester. The attester is one contract that is authorized to mint badges. So in the collection of badges, I told you from 1 to the infinity, from for the badge number 1 to 10 million are minted by the ZK attester. We'll see about that later, but just want to say that Sismo badges can be minted in several ways. There can be several proving schemes to mint a badge. And here I will present the Hydra S1 ZK attester. It's an attester that accepts zero knowledge proofs that are very specific. And if the proof is valid, they mint a badge. But this is only for the badge from number 1 to 10 million. And maybe from number 10 million to 20 million, it will be another attester smart contract that will accept different proofs and have different rules to mint the badge. So we'll see that a bit later. But yeah, so the Hydra S1 ZK attester, this is the one that we have today in production that creates badges. The way it works that it always has a group of eligible accounts. So in the case of proof of humanity, you have the group of all the proof of humanity registrants. We will put that into a Merkle tree that is snark friendly, a Poseidon Merkle tree. And we will put all eligible accounts in the tree. We have a value for each account actually. It will become the of the badge, because for the same badge, you can have different levels. For instance, for the POH, maybe one day if they add some KYC or stuff like that, maybe there will be the power 2 of badge. Like people that will have the badge power 2 will be those who were KYC verified. Anyway, so you put the eligible accounts in a Merkle tree, you have the root, and you publish the root on chain. And so then what happens, how you get the badge in the end, the proof of humanity ZK badge, what happens that in Sismo frontend, you will download the Merkle tree, the full Merkle tree, and you will do in the ZK circuit, in an environment that is private but provable, you will compute three things. First, that you own Hadrien.eth. Second, that Hadrien.eth is part of the Merkle tree. And third, that you own the destination account on which you want to send the badge. So basically what you do is that you generate a ZK proof that you have an account part of the group and you want to send this proof, this badge, to another account. And by doing so, you will just have proved, hey, I have an account part of the tree, but nobody can know more than that. So I generate the proof in the front end of Sismo, and I send this ZK proof to the ZK attester, the smart contract, that verifies the proof and then mint the badge. It does another thing. It registers what we call a nullifiers. For those that know about Tornado Cache or Semaphore, it's one of the problematics of things like that is you want to prove anonymously something, but you don't want them. You want them to mint only one badge per source. So how do you keep track of the fact that the source has been used? And for that we use a nullifier. It is a number that is computed within the snark, and that it's basically the source anonymized. So the attester, what it does is that it checks the ZK proof. Okay, the proof is valid, and okay, for this proof there is this nullifier. So the attester registers the nullifier so that the source, the identity, cannot be used another time to mint another badge. Here you can do the same scheme for any group basically. And so we created the factory. I've seen that you, the org people, have created a badge. The factory allows you to you choose a badge, you will describe it. You can change you can do anything you want. You can create a visual, and then here you can specify some addresses, Hadrien.is, some Twitter accounts, or some GitHub accounts. And so you can input a lot of different, you can put your eligible accounts for this badge. Or more interestingly, actually, you can create a PR to fetch your group of eligible accounts. Here we can see all the badges that were created by the community. You have access to data providers. So for instance, you can have people that committed on a GitHub easily. You can easily create a group from people that committed to your GitHub, that follows you on Lens, that has this POAP, or that voted on your snapshot, or there is a Gitcoin somewhere also. And very soon in the factory, instead of inputting here the list of eligible accounts, you will be able to choose, hey, I want to create a ZK badge for people that follow me on Twitter, or committed on this GitHub repo, or have another ZK badge, like maybe that have the POH. You will be able to reuse group to create and or statements with data providers, so it will be much more powerful. So again, what we do, Sismo, is really not building badges to build badges, it's building infrastructure so that you can build badges to get access to your apps or as reputation in your app while preserving privacy for your applications. Just explain what I said before. So anybody can create a new group for the ZK attester through the factory, for instance, and it will create a new badge. But what is interesting also is that people can create new attesters. Like again, like this is the ERC 1165, each badge is a ERC 20, and attesters have write access on the badges, but only for a finite number of badges. You could very well create a new attester that say, okay, for this attester, the way to prove eligibility is not to provide a ZK proof, it's just to provide the signature of a central party, for instance. So this is the second level of modularity. You can even code, not just come up with your group, but just code a new way to create badges. And lastly, the big vision of Sismo is really to you import all your accounts in a vault, in Sismo Vault, and then you will be able to reveal through badges, but maybe later just through ZK proof, to reveal exactly what you want to the app. So yeah, our vision is really that to be an aggregator of the identity. You add your Twitter account, your GitHub account, your addresses, anything. And when an app requires you to give you some data, you pick exactly what you want. Instead of doing like we do right now, you want to prove NFT ownership, you give your whole address and all the data in it.
No, that was fantastic. You kind of spoiled the surprise that I had for the team, is that we have created that's absolutely fine. We have created a dOrg ZK badge, and if you have been an active member on dOrg in the last closed quarter, so that's the one that closed in September, you can go to playground.sismo.io and you can claim your dOrg badge. That would be a fun way of testing the product, and maybe you'll come up with quite a bit of questions as well. I'm going to start with the first question. You mentioned that there's only one badge per address, that you can only create one badge per address or mint one badge per address. So what happens if I lose access to that badge? Is that, maybe I should clarify one thing. Does the badge that I create gets minted into, for example, Hadrien.eth, or I can mint it else?
So in my Sismo Vault, I have sources and destinations. So sources are the one that will put me eligible for badges. So here I see that I'm eligible to 10 badges. And destinations are the addresses on which I will receive. So whenever, let's try to find a badge that I'm eligible but I didn't mint. I think that I didn't mint this one on the playground. So let's go to the... Okay, so this one we see that I'm eligible because I have an address that is basically to be able to mint this badge, you must be one of the Hadrien.eth in your Twitter account and be influential or something like that. So I'm eligible and I can mint to any destination of my choice. And so now let's say that I want to mint it here. I don't want to do it in front of you, but if I want to mint it here, what happens is that I get the badge there. And if I lose access to this destination account, very soon we will make it so that this badge is bound, like the soul bound term. It will be bound to your source account, the one that I use to prove eligibility. So once every month or so, you will be able to burn and remint. So that's very great. So that like your data is on an important wallet that is backed, but you can send the ZK badge on a burner wallet almost. And if you lose it, you will be able to remint it.
Right. So we're sort of creating a master vault or a master address that if you lose, you're going to be screwed. But you can you can reduce the exposure or the attack surface by keeping these very safe and then putting the badges in as destinations on other more accessible like MetaMask mobile or things that you always have with you, for example.
Exactly. I think that's why I told you all about ZK badges, though it's the main thing for the next year. But just having the ability to create a badge that is not privacy preserving, but just a badge that proves something so that you can send it to a hot wallet is already big. Because today, if you want to prove ownership of things, you must connect with your actual assets. And sometimes you don't want to use your assets, but just the proof that you have them, or things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. What is the tech stack that are using for the ZK stuff? Are you using Circom? Are you using Cairo? Are you using...
So everything is public, by the way, is open source. So we're using the same tech as Tornado Cache or Semaphore. We're using Circom. So basically in Circom, it's a circuit. It really looks like electrical circuit. The way it works is that basically you define each step that you must do. So if you remember in my presentation, what happens in the circuit, the proof that you are part of the Merkle tree. It's this, like step one is verify that I own the Hadrien.eth by basically verifying a signature. Step two, giving the Merkle proof that I'm in the tree. So for this, we use the Circom. It's a nice, it's one of those tools to create ZK snarks. And so this outputs a prover, the way to generate the ZK proof. And so the prover is run in the front end of Sismo. So in the front end, we create the proof. And then this circuit also outputs a verifier. And this is the smart contracts. This is a smart contract. And this one is used in the ZK attester, the one that verifies the proofs. And just want to say something here. We often talk a lot about ZK proofs, ZK, but often it's used in centralized servers because what matters is the succinctness, is the fact that it for scalability, ZK rollups and stuff like that. So for instance, Cairo, we wouldn't be able to use it because for us, Sismo, what matters is not the succinctness, the scalability, it's really the privacy. So everything must be run in the browser.
Gotcha. Yep. Thanks for that. There's been over the years, and as far as I can remember being in Web3, there's been many projects dedicated to self-sovereign identity SSIs. There's been things like Jolocom. There's been things like Ident3, which now I think it's restarting as Polygon ID. 3box also had many iterations and ended up pivoting to Ceramic. None of these have managed to kind of break through and make it. What is different about Sismo?
Yeah, so I think that first, big props to all of them, especially Ident3. Ident3 are the one that developed the Circum language that I just showed you about, and they were doing something very similar to Sismo. But I think that for these things, timing is very important, and I think that thanks to DAOs, thanks to to NFTs, we actually started to have information in wallets. Like, I've been in the space since 2015. Always identity has been a big thing. And like, from a theoretical point of view, it's easy to say the IDs are great and that wallets are amazing. But practically, we didn't manage to find any sort of adoption. But now, if you think about wallets, they are starting to be adopted. So first, we have the idea that we were thinking about. It's wallets. I think we are seeing adoption there. Then, what's the standard to share some identity? A bit like ERC20s are the standard to share assets. I think that we are seeing as NFTs a great standard. It's not only that it's on-chain and interoperable and things like that, that makes the NFT standard great for identity. It's also that even off-chain applications all know how to fetch it. So I think that there's a great timing for identity tools built on wallets that are already getting traction and on this standard that are NFTs. So, and this was not the case 3 years ago.
Yeah, just full disclosure, I used to be part of Idem3 many years ago. So yeah, it's a good
Thanks a
moment
lot
to
for your work,
remind.
because we wouldn't be there without you.
No, thanks a lot for yours. If you're using, so if I have been, for example, sort of soiled, my address is in where I have my my .eth ENS name, etc. I happen to have used Tornado Cash, and I will earn a lot of the badges because I've done certain things like POAPs and because I've participated with this address to many things. I will earn my ZK badges with this. Is it possible to trace back if I create a new badge, which I minted with this address because I'm eligible with this address? Is it possible to trace back to which address I've minted the badge and to connect this badge to the fact that I should be censored by OFAC? I mean, the list is public, right? The list that makes me eligible to mint this is public. So that will mean that some people will know that at least a subset of the people that have this badge are OFAC uncompliant. Is there? How could they possibly trace it back to me?
So I'm not a legal person, so I couldn't know. But on the anonymity part, some people are talking about.
This is a hypothetical, by the way. I have not. I'm not confirming or denying to have used any sanctions.
So you are a legal person. No, I'm kidding. What I can tell is that all these badges, like with this ZK attester, and again, one day we will maybe be able to prove stuff directly from Ethereum storage. So you won't have to need these groups. But for now, our ZK badges are built in that way. You have a group and you prove that you are part of them. So we talk about K anonymity set. About K anonymity meaning you are anonymous amongst a group. So for instance, the Sismo contributor badges, the one that is given to people that helped us along the way, we have 20K people. But yeah, if you mint multiple badges on the same address, at some point people will know who you are. But so I don't know legally if the fact that in these 20K people, if there are a number of OFAC sanction accounts, what does it mean for the badge receivers? I don't know at all. I think it's a legal question.
But there could be no way to know which one of the badge receivers comes from an actual sanction.
Oh, no, of course not. No, that's the whole power of it.
Yeah, so the only way would be, using meta-analysis and seeing, okay, this address appears in 7 different recipients. So, and those particular 7 have been minted to the same destination address, then there's a very high correlation probability. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. So ZK is a very tough field to be in. It puts mathematics, it puts computer science. If you use Circom, it even uses sort of like electrical engineering aspects of it. So where do you source your talent?
Actually, yeah, I guess that it is pretty hard, but there are very good initiatives. For instance, there is ZK Hack. I think that this one is really great. We're basically sponsoring it, but the way I think to source talents is really to go to events there, like the ZK Summit is really great. It's something that happens quite often, and the crowd is amazing. It's really a good crowd, and it goes from applied cryptography to very more theoretical cryptography. But it's always great to meet here. And yeah, and I think that there are more and more people that are understanding that now is a good time to use ZK for privacy. It was for scalability for 3 years. Now I think that people are more and more interested in this. Other thing that there is ZK proof group like this. There is an event right now in Israel, I think, yeah, in Tel Aviv. So I would go to conferences.
Gotcha. I have two more questions for you. Number one is, what do you think the implications of the sanctions to Tornado Cash mean for the privacy ecosystem?
I'm really not good at it. What I can say is that laws are here for a reason in the end. Like there is this social pact or something like that. And I think that centralized regulations are pretty bad at how to follow that. Like I think the best way for us to win is to better regulate ourselves in a way smarter fashion than them and outprove them. Like instead of saying no to any regulation, we should prove that, hey guys, even ourselves, we don't want to be mixed up with hackers. We don't want our tools to let as a society, we don't want to incentivize these sort of behaviors. And so even if centralized regulations are, in my opinion, really outdated and obsolete, and I think like last week showed us a lot of things about how they are useless, it doesn't mean that regulations are bad. It means that there should be decentralized regulations. And so it's up to us to prove them that our regulations are better. And yeah, and DeFi works well. There could be more rules. So that's why I think.
That's a very different position from the usual, the code is law sort of thing, or the code, and you don't really care who uses them, even if you're a criminal, the tool is out there. So you would be an advocate to include some sort of governance to make sure that the product can't be evil in some sort of way. I think I've heard this can't be evil thing. But yeah, that's brilliant. It is a brave position to take and very different from what you usually hear.
Just to be clear, I'm just saying that our tools are way better at everything, including regulations, and that in the end, these tools are used by humans, and there's these big enemies that are centralized institutions and their infrastructure that is shitty. But our tools could also be better to regulate, and regulation can actually be good. I don't think that anyone wants to have murderers in their neighbors, and we are a tool to free from shitty stuff, but it can also be used to do smart regulations, like yeah. I think that it's not that uncommon to even with privacy activists and stuff like that, to tell them, do you prefer to have a tornado cache with hackers or a tornado cache without hackers? They will tell you, I prefer it without hackers if I can keep tornado cache as private as before. Like it depends. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great with our technology anyway is that you can fork it, and that makes everything different. Is that if you want to fork a tornado cache with hackers, you can do it, and that's way different than centralized regulations of today, where there is one choice and you cannot fork at all. So I'm not advocating for less privacy or more control. I'm really saying that our tools are way better at everything, so we should use them.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this. I want to end with the top 3 use cases for Sismo according to you. The 3 things that you are most excited about.
Yeah, so I showed you the factory. Very soon you'll be able to just, like, instead of creating a ZK badge, like here, you will be able to, I can create a ZK badge from Snapshot Vote or Gitcoin or I don't know what. You will be able to...
Sorry, I didn't mean like the 3 things that you can do, but and how to create. But like, what do these badges can be used for? What are the use cases for these badges?
Yeah, so very soon, for instance, like you will be able to create directly, and badges will be hidden. To create all the token-gated stuff, like doing private voting, private airdrops, private chats, all these things, it empowers and it leverages all token-gated tools. And one of the other very interesting for me is governance. Today, it's all about coin voting, and generally, we are not able anywhere to use capital. And if you think about it, these ZK badges allow you to use your social capital. And so your social capital should be counted in governance, your contributions. And in Sismo, we use ZK badges to vote on our governance. And you'll see that on our proposals, what's great is that you have people that have 500 voting power, other that has only 50. And the way to get more power is to contribute more, to have more impactful contributions. And I think that if you do this contribution-based voting and a financial-based voting, like you mix the two together, basically your number of ERC20 financial asset multiplied by a multiplier depending on your contributions, I think that it will improve governance. So governance, it's a long-term one because it's hard, but adding social capital to your power, I think it's very important. I mean, it's going to be great. So that's only 2, but yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. That was a perfect ending with some real cases that these badges will bring. Thank you so much, Hadrien. The rest of you, the rest of the team, please go to playground.sismo.io and mint your dOrg badge. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.